Hello friends, I hope everybody's doing well. Okay, so let me tell you the quick story on this. This is the 1957 Gravely. It's the first project that we did recently. And what happened with this was it was cranking really slow. Um, it happened all of a sudden. I mean, it was starting up fine. And then one day when I wanted to back it out of the storage here, it was cranking very slow. So what I did was I backed it out and I put the battery charger on it. I have that commercial battery charger, the big one there. And I put it on for about an hour. So it cranked slow again. And then I put the tractor away. And I assumed that the battery was no good. Bad assumption. What I did was I took the battery off it and put the spare battery back on here that I have laying around here, and now all of a sudden I have nothing. So don't jump to the conclusion that the battery is bad right away. What you want to do is do some tests. I have the battery that we've been using up on the table there, and I'll show you. I have the battery tester, and I tested the battery this morning, and it has a little over 12 volts in it, like it should. And this is a very simple electrical system on this tractor. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but what I did was I hooked one end of the test light. I hooked it up to the positive cable here, because I wanted to make sure that the starter was grounding properly. Which it is. The test light is lit, so that eliminates that problem. So now what I'll do is I'll hook up the test light lead to the negative cable, and we'll see if we have juice going to everything here. All you have is the positive cable goes down to the starter switch, and then on the other post on the other side, the cable that goes to the starter itself. So when you press the button here, which incidentally, I told you that it was cranking really slow, but after I put the battery on here, now I get nothing at all. Alright, so let me hook up the test light to the negative side of the battery here. I want to make sure you're in view here pretty much. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can see what's going on. Okay, so we know the starter switch. I knew that that was fine after I did my tests. So what I did was I put the test light to the cable that goes right directly to the starter. I got nothing here. I did. Maybe I don't have the negative side hooked up good. Or maybe we're in for more problems than I thought. I don't know. Because I did test it off camera and it was fine. Okay, let's try that. I have nothing to that here. I wonder what's up with this now. I did have juice going to each side here. I don't understand. Let me try to do this without arcing anything out. What I'm gonna do now when I hit that other post. Could this battery be dead? Let me hook up the battery tester to this battery and test it. Make sure we have juice. I'll be back to you shortly. Alright, I had a bad connection on the with the test light on the negative lead. Alright, so I'm back on the battery. Okay, you can't see it on camera, but I'm seeing the test light is lighting, which indicates that we have a problem in the starter here. I was able to dig out a spare starter that I have, and we'll go over to the table here. And I bench tested it, but it's growling some, so I might just take the starter gear off and pull that cover off and just spray. I don't think you're supposed to, whatever. I'm just going to spray some WD-40 and lubricate everything in there and see if the starter works better than this one, even though it's growling, because this one does nothing. So let me go over to the bench there. First thing we're going to do is I'll test that starter, and then I'll show you that the other battery is still good. So fortunately, I probably would have tested it better if I had to go out to buy a new battery for it, but since I had this spare battery, I just assumed that the battery was no good. That's why it was a slow cranking starter here. So I've had times where when I used to do customer repairs, I used to have lawn tractors come in and they had the same problem, but the customer would go out, buy a new battery, put the battery on and say, hey, I put a new battery on it and it's doing the same thing. Well, a lot of the times it turned out to be that the carburetor, the needle and seat was stuck, and the engine would be flooding out, and what would happen is the cylinder would get full of gasoline and it couldn't crank over. It couldn't pump that, the piston couldn't pump that gas, you know, and it turned out to be either replace the carburetor or a good carburetor cleaning on that. So just this video is to not make the mistake that I made to jump to conclusions and go out and buy a new battery for whatever you're working on. Batteries are pretty expensive these days, so let me get set up back at the table there, and I'll show you what this starter is doing that I dug out of the back. I think that's about the only starter I have left. I have a couple starters that need to be gone over, taken apart. I'm going to wait for my eyes to get better, and we'll check out a couple of these starters and see what they need. But this starter just went dead completely inside. Okay, so this is the starter I dug out of the back off of a junk Gravely somewhere along the line. Hear that? It could be the bushing in the front here where the gear goes on, where the shaft comes out, the armature shaft. It could be this bushing in here. It could be. Otherwise, the starter sounded pretty decent, but I'm going to go ahead and take the gear off. Maybe I'll bring you back for that. We'll just pull this off and clean up the bushing in here and lube it up or whatever. But that'll be later on in the video. Even if you just buy a multimeter, a cheap one at Harbor Freight, they were giving them away for a while if you purchase stuff when they used to, they still give you coupons, but I do have one, but I have this battery tester here that I use, and you could also load test the battery with this. I've got a few videos on that. So if we hook this up here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see because of the sun glare, that you'll see that I changed the battery for nothing because it's up in the good range, up a little past 12 here. So I think off camera I'm going to stick this battery back on here, and then we'll take the starter apart, and I'll be back to you soon. I'm just going to film this the best I can here. Alright, so what you have here, there's two long bolts that go in from the backside here and go into this cover here, flange, whatever you want to call it. I took the starter gear off. There was no dowel pin in there or anything. It was just, I just must have just slid it on or whatever. And I'm going to be using a 3/8 socket, and we're just going to remove those bolts. By spinning it with my fingers here, it doesn't seem like there's anything going on with this bushing here, but I'm not sure. Okay, so I got the one long bolt out. This is the bolt here. And then we have another one here. And I got my hand right in the way. This flange only goes back on one way. There's a pin in there or something like that, if I remember correctly. So like I said, I'm just going to spray everything with WD-40. It's not really the right way to do it. And it could be that the brushes in the starter are probably no good by now. Could be that too, you know. So we're just going to pull this off here without getting into any trouble. And I'm just going to spray some WD all down in here. And I'm going to clean up that bushing anyway, just for the heck of it. And not the right way to do this, but I just want to get this starter working halfway decent anyway. I think I'm about fresh out of starters. I have to dig around some more. I don't think WD-40 could hurt, if anything. It'll help it some. Should help it, I would say. Just give it some spins here. I don't want this back cover to come off either. And then there's a bushing in here like I was telling you before. I'm just going to take a little sandpaper and sand that down. Maybe put a little anti-seize on there and put it back together. So there's really nothing more to say. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do like I just said. I want to dump whatever excess WD in there. I'll just turn it over and just dump that out some. And I'll get back to you when we're about to go test it again. Okay, so I put the starter back together, and I was telling you the sprocket here is supposed to have a dowel pin. I never use the dowel pin anymore. I don't even have one for it. But what I do is I drill the sprocket out a 1/4 of an inch and the starter shaft too, and I put a hardened 1/4 inch bolt, nut and bolt in there. So I noticed after a while with the dowel pin, these starter gears like to start wobbling around. But I've done it on a number of tractors and never had a problem. Alright, so getting back to this. Before I put the cover back on, I took my my die grinder with the sanding disc, and I just went around the shaft and cleaned that up real good. And then I just cleaned up the inner part of this plate here. I cleaned that up real good. I put some anti-seize on there and put it back together. And that's about it. So what we'll do now is we'll bench test it. So give me just a second to, I'm just going to bring it over here and we'll hook it up to the battery and see what it does. Sorry I have to walk you like this. Whoops, sorry again. Yeah, the starter's like right about there. Yeah, you could see what's going on. All right, so I'll just jump it off the battery here, and hopefully we don't get any arcage. This thing's probably going to may sling some WD-40 around. I don't know. Nope, that wasn't good. I'll get it one of these days. Here. Much quieter, but like I said, that wasn't the proper way to repair this. It's good enough. Starter seems to be spinning even faster than it was before. So what I'll do is off camera, I'll throw the battery back on it that we originally were using. I'll throw the starter on it and see if we can get this thing to start up now. Okay, so I installed the battery. I hooked the battery up last. I hooked it up after I changed the starter over. Let's see what happens here. There's not much gas in it, but I'm just going to start it up and then make sure the starter's alright, and we'll shut it off. I don't think there's even enough gas to start this beast. Alright, so the starter's working pretty good. That little bit of a silly service we did to it. Like I said, that's not really the right way to service the starter, but we got it to stop growling like it was on the bench. So, alright, so I hope this helps somebody out, and don't make that same mistake I made. And just assume the battery's no good because it's cranking slow. So, alright, so thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Let's try it again. I forgot to turn the kill switch on. That always helps. Alright, I really don't want it to run out of gas. I got enough gas in it to drive it back in. That thing was a real pain to push in without it starting that day. Alright, thanks for watching again. I'll see you all on the next one.